Hello movie buffs, my name is Steve aka NJMovieFreak, and today I have a very special guest with me. I've known this guy for almost 20 years. He composes, records, and performs his own music under the name Cucurbitophobia and loves horror movies. Please say hello to my dear friend Mr. Rob Benny.
How are you all out there? I'm very pleased to be on the show. Thank you very much for having me on, Steve. It's going to be a great time.
Absolutely. Today Rob and I are going to talk about one of our favorite horror films of the late 1980s. So grab your limit configuration, solve the puzzle, and take a tour with us through the labyrinth with Clive Barker's Hellraiser. Yes. Hellraiser is a 1987 horror film written and directed by Clive Barker. It stars Ashley Lawrence, Andrew Robinson, Claire Higgins, and Douglas Bradley.
This film became so popular that it spawned 9 sequels. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, Hellraiser Bloodline, Hellraiser Inferno, Hellraiser Hellseeker, Hellraiser Deader, Hellraiser Hellworld, Hellraiser Revelations, and last but not least, Hellraiser Judgment.
Hellraiser was released into theaters on September 18th, 1987, 35 years ago. If you haven't seen it by now, then we'll tear your soul apart.
Spoilers.
You cut me off, bitch. The film begins in Morocco, where a man by the name of Frank Cotton buys a puzzle box from a black market dealer. When Frank solves the puzzle, chains with hooks emerge from the box and tear him apart. A black-robed figure appears, picks up the box, and returns it to its original state, restoring the room back to normal. Sometime afterward, Frank's brother Larry moves into the house to rebuild his rocky relationship with his second wife Julia, who had an affair with Frank shortly before their wedding. Larry's teenage daughter Kirsty has chosen not to live with them and moves into her own place. In the process of moving, Larry cuts his hand carrying a mattress up the stairs, causing him to drip blood all over the attic floor. As the blood seeps into the floorboards, it resurrects Frank as a skinless corpse, who is soon found by Julia. Still obsessed with Frank, she agrees to bring people back for him to drain so that he can fully be restored to human form, and they can be together again. Julia begins picking up random men in bars, lowering them back to her house and mortally wounding them. Frank then sinks his hand into their dying bodies, draining their life while regenerating his body little by little with each victim. Frank explains to Julia they sought out the puzzle box, which was supposed to provide access to a realm of new carnal pleasures. But when the puzzle was solved, the Cenobites came and subjected him to extreme sadomasochism. Kirsty catches Julia bringing a man to the house, follows her to the attic, and interrupts Frank's latest feeding. Frank attacks her, but Kirsty throws the puzzle box out the window, creating a distraction and allowing her to escape. Kirsty retrieves the box, flees, and collapses shortly afterward. Awakening in a hospital, she solves the box, summoning a monster called the Engineer, which Kirsty narrowly escapes from by running down a corridor back into her room. Pinhead, the Cenobites' leader, appears and explains that although they have been perceived as both angels and demons, they are simply explorers from another dimension seeking carnal pleasures, and they can no longer differentiate between pain and pleasure. When they attempt to force Kirsty to return to their realm with them, she makes a deal with Pinhead to tank Frank, since he escaped from them in her place. The Cenobites agree, but the catch is that Frank must confess to escaping them. Kirsty returns home, where Frank has killed Larry and taken his identity by stealing his skin. Julia shows her what is alleged to be Frank's flayed corpse in the attic, but the Cenobites appear and are not fooled by the deception. Kirsty tries to escape, but is held by Julia and Frank. Frank reveals his true identity to Kirsty and decides to kill her to complete his rejuvenation. He accidentally stabs Julia instead and drains her without remorse. Frank chases Kirsty to the attic, and when he is about to kill her, the Cenobites appear after hearing him confessing to killing Larry. Pinhead summons hooks and chains from his dimension, ensnaring him and tearing him to pieces. The Cenobites now decide to take Kirsty. Ripping the puzzle box from Julia's dead hands, Kirsty banishes the Cenobites by reversing the motions needed to open the puzzle box. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but in Clive Barker's universe, it is only paved with desire, torture, suffering, and pleasure. Pinhead is neither a hero nor a villain. He's considered demons to some, angels to others. He simply is. Pinhead's responsibility is to facilitate an individual's deepest desire, which is to experience the pain that is hell, but customized for each victim according to each individual's most carnal desires. BDSM influenced Hellraiser in many ways. The leather, makeup, and torturous methods used by the Cenobites were lifted, albeit greatly exaggerated, from the hedonistic lifestyle. Part of what made Hellraiser mythology interesting was the idea that the Cenobites had nothing to do with morality. They want to be the way they are and do what they do. What they offer is neither punishment nor reward, just an experience to choose. The people they abduct are apparently drawn to what the box represents. Frank is just a guy who chickened out on the deal and wanted out. Hellraiser implies that sadomasochism is a step on the road to hell, a state of being that is both terrifying and seductive. Director Clive Barker attributes his own fear and/or fascination with blood to his own cesarean birth. To quote Barker from the book, The Hellraiser Films and Their Legacy by Paul Kane, there was a series of traumatic first impressions of the world, a lot of noise, panicked voices. I think the first few minutes of my life were just horrible. With regards to the Hellraiser's lament configuration, Barker's grandfather was a ship's cook who brought him back presents from the Far East. One of them just happened to be a puzzle box they spent hours trying to solve.
The box. You opened it. We came.
Hellraiser was originally supposed to be titled The Hellbound Heart, named after the Clive Barker novella from which the story is adapted. However, the studio was hesitant about the title, claiming that it sounded too much like a romance movie. As a result, Clive Barker suggested the title Sadomasochists from Beyond the Grave. When that title was also rejected by the producers, Barker drew suggestions from anyone on the set.
The Engineer, or as many Hellraiser fans know it as, the Wall Crawler, that chases Kirsty through the labyrinth has a much bigger backstory than shown on the screen. Some popular theories have said that the Engineer was the first human to open the gates of hell thousands of years ago. The time it's spent in hell since, under the influence of Lord Leviathan, has twisted and changed the Engineer into its current form of a scorpion-like creature. In Clive Barker's story, The Hellbound Heart, the Engineer is presented differently and is actually the leader of the Cenobites that Kirsty encounters, not Pinhead, and is in charge of making sure that the lament configuration makes its way to a new person after its previous user has been claimed. Also, the Engineer was a breakthrough monster design. Some of the special effects making it move weren't the greatest, but practical. On every film and TV set, whether it be due to a tight schedule, poor rigging, or accidental exposure on camera, bloopers do make it into the final cut. If you look closely at the scene where the Engineer is chasing Kirsty, the trolley that is holding him up and moving can be seen.
This isn't for your eyes.
Sorry, Pinhead.
Douglas Bradley was initially offered 2 roles in Hellraiser. He had his choice to play either one of the mattress movers or the lead Cenobite. As an upcoming actor desperate to stand out, Bradley nearly turned down the lead Cenobite role for fear that his face would be too unrecognizable beneath all of the heavy makeup. Bradley ultimately opted to play Pinhead, and has since become one of the most infamous horror villains ever committed to celluloid. Even so, Bradley had trouble hitting his marks on set due to the low visibility of his black contact lenses.
Douglas Bradley was in a film titled Scream Park. In it, he portrays the owner of a declining amusement park called Frightland. It is on the verge of closing down for good, but he has one last plan to sell more tickets: murder. He hires 2 people to murder all of the park's employees, said this type of publicity would attract fans. As a nod to the Hellraiser fans, in one of the scenes, you can see him sitting at his desk, and on the desk sits a lament configuration.
It took roughly 6 hours to apply Pinhead's prosthetic makeup on Douglas Bradley every day. Over the course of the franchise, Bradley became so skilled at applying and removing his own makeup that he's often been credited as a makeup assistant on several of the Hellraiser films. Once Bradley wore the head prosthesis for the first time, he got into character by silently staring at himself alone in the mirror. 6 hours in a makeup chair. God, can you imagine that?
Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
To give the movie a promotional push, producers organized a very unique marketing ploy. A home shopping network-like program offered Hellraiser fans the chance to purchase merchandise from the film that included the lament configuration tissue box, a Hellraiser thermos, coffee mug, etc. The program also included the rare first edition of the VHS release. The program was hosted by an old lady who claimed to be a Hellraiser fanatic. Wow, Rob, this sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I wonder what the Hellraiser fans out there would have done if they thought this was a scam.
I know, right?
You set me up, bitch.
According to In Search of Darkness's Twitter page, Ashley Lawrence made her film debut as Kirsty Cotton in Hellraiser. In 2021, she was also in the Creepshow segment Pesticide. Fun fact for you, Ashley is also a visual artist.
If you think about it, Hellraiser is really a love story, a drama. Come to think of it, I think I said that on our podcast a few years ago. I'm going to be honest with you. When I first saw Hellraiser, I thought it was a drama because it's such a slow burn. See? I did say that. Julia is forced to bring men back to her house and murder them for Frank so that he can replenish his flesh. Barker looked at Hellraiser as more of a love story, with Julia committing these heinous acts in the name of love, not just to be brutal for no reason.
On October 7th, Hulu released Hellraiser, directed by David Bruckner from a screen story co-written by David Goyer. It's intended to serve as a new adaptation of the 1986 novella The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, which of course served as the basis for the entire Hellraiser franchise. It's essentially a reboot in the 11th installment overall. But after hearing this, I think I'm gonna cry.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
When I was talking to people about doing this review, every so often I would say lament configuration, and people will look at me puzzled. No pun intended. Most fans know the infamous cube as the puzzle box, or just the box. The term lament configuration wasn't known until Hellraiser Inferno, aka Hellraiser number 5, when Dr. Paul Gregory, portrayed by actor James Remar, said it. Hey Rob, you know who could defeat Pinhead and his Cenobites?
Who?
Superman.
Really?
Not good.
Damn. Now Rob, as a musician, can you tell us from your perspective your reaction to the Hellraiser score?
I love it. I think the Hellraiser score is one of the best horror scores in history. It's scored by renowned composer Christopher Young, who went on to later score other horror films such as The Grudge, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Drag Me to Hell, and Sinister, which I think is undisputably one of the better horror films of the 2010s. From start to finish, it captures a very orchestral, enigmatic approach. It sucks the listener in a very dark, gothic setting. And some of the sections are very, like, they're in your face. They don't pull any punches. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. It doesn't move very fast and distracting. There's not a lot of musical business going on. It's very long, it's very atmospheric and ambient, and the orchestra swells in and out at different points, and occasionally dips into more atonal, creepy sections, such as depicted in the Cenobites movement of the score. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd have to probably give it an 11, in my opinion.
Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff. You know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly.
I would put Christopher Young's Hellraiser score right up there with John Carpenter's Halloween or Charles Bernstein's Nightmare on Elm Street.
According to the book Nightmare Fuel, The Science of Horror Films, a very common practice that composers use when scoring films is injecting what are called infrasounds. These are sounds / music that are played below the frequency of human hearing, so that subconsciously while watching horror films, many people tend to feel like they're being watched, sense that something is coming, or that someone or something will pop out at you, extreme tension, etc. According to author Nina Neseth, even if we can't hear infrasound, we can still perceive the vibrations caused by it. Even though they don't realize they're hearing it, people exposed to infrasound might report a sense of uneasiness if they're sensitive to it. I would give Hellraiser 5 out of 5 stars. What do you think, Rob?
Definitely 5 out of 5 stars in my opinion. It was very groundbreaking and very controversial upon its release. Did you know that it almost got an X rating from the MPAA?
No, I didn't know that.
Yep, Hellraiser originally was going to get an X rating from some really graphic content, which was eventually cut down to secure an R rating. Just the stigma of the BDSM community alone that emerged from the 1980s and that time period when it was a very wholesome conservative time period when the moral majority was dominant in America and other parts of the world where censorship and even blasphemy laws were still very prevalent. Hellraiser had a lot of hurdles to overcome in order to be able to be released to the public. With that being said, it's amazing how far the franchise has come and just how it still holds up and stands the test of time and has, reached new generations of younger audiences to carry the torch for, the Hellraiser that's still prevalent to this day.
It's amazing because Hellraiser is filled with, if you think about it, it's got everything. You got drama, suspense, horror, the macabre, BDSM, a little bit of comedy. You got the Cenobites, and you got, of course, Pinhead.
We'll tear your soul apart.
So if you happen to stumble across a black market, please, would you tell Rob and I, what is your pleasure? Rob and I would like to thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Please click on that subscribe button below. Remember to give it a like and a share. Turn on those notifications and follow me on Instagram at NJMovieFreak so you can stay up to date with photos, videos, and exciting new updates. I would also like to thank my very special guest Rob Benny for coming on to today's episode.
You're very welcome, Steve, and I'm honored and delighted to be a part of your show. I had an awesome time talking about Hellraiser and the rest of the franchise. I would like to also tell you all out there that you can find Cucurbitophobia's music on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube Music, Deezer, or any other digital streaming platform. You could also buy my digital albums directly through me at cucurbitophobia.bandcamp.com.
We really appreciate everyone for watching this video. Please post your comments and questions below because we really want to hear from you. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Down there on that little piece, it'll be switched to camera. Yep, it's
Okay,
on.
camera, fantastic.
Fantastic.
That's the word of the day.
Hello, movie buffs. My name is Steve, aka NJMovieFreak, and today I have a special guest with me. I've known this guy for almost 20 years. He composes, records, and performs his own music under the name Cucurbitophobia.
Close.
I knew I was gonna f that up.
Nah, it's okay. Cucurbitophobia.
Cucurbitophobia.
All right, good try.
And I guess I'm cutting this by myself. Today, Rob and I are going to talk about one of our favorite horror films of the late 1980s. So make sure you grab your little mint cover. Grab it. Grab your balls. Hello, movie buffs. My name is Steve, aka
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I lost it. I'm sorry, bro.
That's okay.
I'm very sorry.
Hello, movie buffs. My name is Steve, aka NJMovieFreak, and today I have a very special guest with me. I've known this guy for almost 20 years. He composes, records, and performs his own music under the name Cucurbitophobia.
Oh,
Damn it!
You were getting there.
I know, I was getting there. Hellraiser implies that sadomasochism. Hellraiser implies that Hellraiser implies that sadomasochism. My God.
You got it.
How do you say it?
Sadomasochism.
Hellraiser implies that sadomasochism. Sadomasochism or
Sadomasochism.
Sadomasochism. I spelled it wrong.
Sadomasochism. No, you spelled it right. Sadomasochism.
Start again.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
To give the movie a promotional push, producers organized a very unique marketing ploy. A home shopping network-like program offered Hellraiser chance.
Hellraiser chance? Oh, it happens.
To give the movie a promotional push, producers organized a very unique marketing ploy.
I'm sorry. I just burst out. I was ready to hiccup, and it just burst out. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
It was right in there.
I almost went. I just had to catch myself. I'm sorry.
If you think about it, Hellraiser is really a love story, a drama. Come to think of it, I think I said that on our podcast a few years ago.
You know? Really?
I can't with this guy. I can't with him. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. No, fucking acid reflux, man. I should have taken Gas X before I came, but I didn't.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
Let it out now. My question to you is, was that one of pain or pleasure? Or both?
It was a little both, to be honest with you.